There are two major things that have happened that at first people didn't realize the significance of them. They're starting to get it with one of them, but we'll get into the two things that happened that are going to be so pivotal in this video. But first, I also want to say I'm so frustrated because this is twice in a row now that the price of gold went down strongly, $50 or more per ounce, and people started getting worried, and everyone changed their outlook on gold all of a sudden. And before I could get to a video where in the video I'd say to you what I always say to you, don't worry about gold. By the time I got to that point to film it, the price of gold had already recovered, and I did it again. I keep seeing the price of gold go down, and I say, okay, my next video, I'll just talk about how it's going to be fine and don't worry about it. And by the time I get to film it, it's already bounced a lot higher. Just think of gold and all precious metals with the wind in its sails as we go forward. And that applies to all commodities too. Just before we get into it, I ask you to help support the channel. One thing you can do right now is just click the like button. Please do that. It helps us spread the word. Anyway, here's a screenshot from yesterday how gold performed and silver too. And last I checked today, gold's already up over $10 an ounce. So don't worry about gold. It'll be fine. And just remember that next time you see the price of gold drop significantly, even if it drops $200 an ounce, it'll be fine. Just don't worry about it. But let's get into the two events that happened, which were so incredibly significant that a lot of people seem to miss the significance of them. The first one, which is now finally being recognized more, is that Biden and the Biden administration have authorized Ukraine to use longer-range missiles, and they already have started using them. As well, Israel targeted someone, and you sort of gloss it over or don't understand the difference between the different targetings or assassinations. So the thing is, though, they are going military, and all of a sudden they took out somebody that would be an equivalent of a emissary or a politician or a diplomat. It represents a shift in strategy for the IDF, and that's going to also have a lot of implications. And we'll get into it in this video. And I also want to talk about the North Korean troops that are in Ukraine or Russia fighting Ukraine. Estimates right now is that there's 11,000 North Korean troops already in Ukraine on the front lines, and the estimate is that that number is going to get up as high as 100,000 North Korean troops. I just find it so strange, and I know that armies have done this through the years and since the beginning of time, but there's a Ukrainian dude and a North Korean dude, and they're trying to kill each other, and they don't even cross paths generally ever. It's just amazing the situations that people put themselves into. And we're in a pretty bad situation, or 12 of them right now, too. This is going to become even more clear as we go further in this video, and I tell you what Putin's talking about doing now. And hey, for some reason I just thought of the DJT, Donald Trump media stock, so I thought I'd check it out. And I went, here's a screenshot of how the stock's trading, and what I found that was so significant or unique is the trading activity that you see here on the lower part of the chart. It almost lines up identically with the share price activity. I just thought it was interesting how when there's a lot of buying activity, a lot of trading action, the share price reacted almost identically to the flows of new interest and new money. But I put in a special letter that I wrote for people who are members of the Peter Leeds Insiders. If you want to join, just go to peterleeds.com/insiders. A couple bucks a month, you get the special insider exclusive newsletter. But that's what I want to tell you about, is what I wrote in it. And I wrote it just for the insiders, but then I realized that everybody needs to hear exactly what's going on with this. So check this out. This is what I wrote in the Peter Leeds Insider special alerts. Very few people are recognizing the significance of two events which just happened. Israel targeted and took out Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Of course, this got lost in all the dozens of similar events that we've heard about lately, but I don't blame you for thinking that it was just more of the same. But what I went on to say was that the reason it was notable, think of Haniyeh as more of a diplomat or a politician than a soldier. Hamas's top political leader was killed Wednesday by a pre-dawn airstrike in the Iranian capital. The shock assassination is risking escalation into an all-out regional war. Iran's supreme leader vowed revenge against Israel. So I guess that's more upcoming revenge that we'll see one day. Just add it to the list. But the second thing that I went on to write about was that Ukraine has gotten the blessing of America to use much longer range missiles. And like most things, the really important part of all of this is about what Russia does in response, especially if they feel like the momentum is shifting. Putin is not above tactical nukes or poisons or chemical warfare or cyber warfare or even just throwing a few 100,000 soldiers into the meat grinder to join the eventually 100,000 North Korean troops that are going to be fighting for the Russians. And since I wrote that, what's going on the media? What's happening? Putin's talking about using nuclear weapons. He's changed the nuclear doctrine that they abide by. And I don't blame him, but what would you do, right? But all the talk now is about escalating to nuclear weapons. Because what Putin is saying is that if there's a nuclear-capable country, like America, helping a non-nuclear country, like Ukraine, that's tantamount or equivalent to being assaulted by a country with nuclear weapons. And he's saying that it makes more sense to use nuclear weapons now. Maybe he's just saber-rattling. We don't know. And I was writing an email response to Dwayne. He got a really good response from me because he's a Peter Leeds insider. Become a Peter Leeds insider. You can talk to me by email directly anytime. But he was asking about how I come up with all the buy and sell price opinions. And I gave him a response that I thought, you know what, maybe you guys would benefit by hearing it as well. So I said to Dwayne, each stock's in a unique situation and must be considered in a vacuum, independent of overall market and industry influences. And don't get me wrong, I should have said also, should be considered with the overall industry influences. But also, you have to look at the stock in a vacuum just by itself, its health, independent of what any other company is doing. But here's the part you need to hear. I went on to say that with the technical analysis aspect of the review, I look at things like trading activity, changes in that activity, support and resistance levels, typical volatility and price ranges, other technical indicators like cup and handle patterns, consolidations, shareholder turnover or breakouts, as well as the institutional price expectations. Those are just a few of the things that go into the 29-point Leeds analysis process that we apply to all the stocks that we talk about. And you can see the whole Leeds analysis review process on peterleeds.com right now if you want to see it for free. But I wanted to mention, I had said about shareholder turnover. That is such a reliable indicator if you're a newer investor or less experienced and you want to really make some money without risking any money. The way to do it is to keep an eye on shareholder turnover. Think of it this way. Stocks coming down, long-time shareholders get really frustrated and they give up on the stock, they throw it away. And as they sell, eventually the stock keeps on going lower and lower because there's more selling. But then eventually there comes a point where that selling is met by new buying demand. People are seeing value at those prices, and that's when they kick in. And there's still people selling. And when the selling is meeting equal buying, it starts trading sideways for a while. And what you're seeing there is a turnover of the shareholder base. A lot less long-term disgruntled shareholders, a lot more newer shareholders who are expecting the price to do well. After all, they just bought. And they're also a lot less likely to sell anytime soon. And that leads to a little bit of demand driving the prices higher. You want consolidations to turn over the shareholder base by at least 25%. Anything above that is going to be an absolute back up the truck by as much as you can. In my opinion, I'm not giving you personalized trading advice. That's also why I said buy and sell price opinions as well as stop losses are more of an art than a science. It takes a lot of work, a lot of years to be consistently correct. But the good news, even though it sounds so complicated, is that all of this will become much easier each week and with each trade. So consider becoming a Peter Leeds insider, peterleeds.com/insiders. Or check out our world-famous newsletter, where we give stock picks, updates, profiles, special articles, my trades, my personal portfolio, all of that clearly for you if you get the Peter Leeds newsletter, peterleeds.com.